Well, we made it to the end of the day. Praise be. It's been a lot of energy today, and I think everybody's been saying, like, we're tired today. That seems to be the theme. But I think it's been a great day. Yes, I love it. So just to give y'all a little bit about myself, my name is Melinda. I'm the owner of Empowering Minds Counseling. And today I'm going to talk about boundaries in difficult times, multidimensional boundaries on different levels. So I wanted to start out talking a little bit about astrology. I can also go off on long tangents about astrology, and I'm going to try really hard to not to today, but I want to give you guys just a little bit because there's a lot going on right now in our world. I don't know if anybody's felt it, but there's just a few things going on. So I kind of wanted to touch on a couple of them, okay? I gave you guys some points here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So we'll start with Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto's like the planet of transformation, rebirth, right? And then our Aquarius, I think of her like weird Barbie, right? She comes in like with her hair all crazy and she's looking at you all weird. And when her and Pluto are meeting up, like Pluto is the big transformation, right? We're changing things. So the last time that we did this, to give you guys some reference, we had the Haitian Revolution, we had the French Revolution, and we had the American Revolution. A lot of like big transformative times that were good, right? I also see this kind of like society in a lot of ways leveled up, right? So when we think of revolution, that's big change, and not in a negative way, really in a good way. But to move through that change, it was discomfort. What happens when you look at weird Barbie? Does that feel good? No, but there's like this attraction to her, like, oh, this is interesting. I would love to get to know her, right? So when you think about that, I want you all to think like, what kind of revolution can you see coming now? What kind of revolution, especially in the United States? She's in her Pluto return. Like, what do you see happening? It's kind of interesting to think about, right? And I think it's kind of fun. So the end of the United States, her Pluto return is happening. So we're at 248 years right now. Most empires, when we look at history, they last about 250 years before they go through some kind of big radical shift. So to give you some context as to what's going on in the United States right now, I don't know if anybody noticed there's some radical shifts in the United States right now, but give you some context there. So that's the Pluto in Aquarius. Then we can also talk a little bit about Neptune leaving Pisces. This is the first time in 15 years, and she's moving into Aquarius. And this is going to start the end of March. We're going to do some retrograde things, right? And then October 22nd of 2025, it's going to station direct until 2038. So for quite a while. Okay. Then we've got Uranus leaving Taurus after 7 years and moving into Gemini. So Gemini is going to open up communication. It's going to give us some new ideas, which is great. I think we need this right now. We really need some new innovative ideas. So this is a good thing, I think. This is going to start July 7th. and continue to November 7th. Then we're going to go back into some retrogrades, and then finally it's going to station direct in April of next year.
So countries can be treated as though they're like a human? And like
Absolutely.
Periods?
Absolutely.
But like I thought for astrology it's important to also know like the time.
Right.
Was born. So like, do you know the exact time that like America?
Well, when was the U.S. Constitution signed? When was,
Is there like a timestamp on that?
Absolutely, yes. You can go to astro.com and look up what's called the ephemeris of many different things. So when the United States became its own country.
So I have a question. Does that like apply to like other like things like I don't know, like let's say somebody starts like a business or like
Absolutely, yes.
or like I don't know, like a new city or like
Yes, I actually, when I pull astrology charts, a lot of times I'll do for people if they're looking at moving or when they did move. When I pull astrology charts, I'm always asking people when they moved, if they did move. So I'm always going to look when you were born, where you were born, right? And then also if you moved, if you had a big move, that's definitely going to impact your chart. That's a good question.
but I don't know, it's like anthropomorphizing like a country, like anthropomorphizing like a business or a city or a situation.
Yeah, you can absolutely do it. You can do so many fun things with astrology. I think actually the next time I talk, I'm going to talk about astrology because I can go down so many rabbit holes. It's bad, but it's fun. I have so much fun. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, no it's not, but these are for outer planets anyway, Jupiter leaving Gemini. So Jupiter, she's big, she's expansive. I always say Jupiter's like bigger, better, more, right? Gemini is communication. She's the new ideas. That's going to be moving into Cancer, which I think is really nice, and that's happening in June. So that's like our security, our safety, and she's also a water sign, and it's going to stay there for a year. So that's going to be kind of nice too. Then our inner planets, we have Mars. So Mars is a little feisty. She's a fighter, right? So she's a fire sign, and that's going to station direct tomorrow. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of current astrology too. So that stations direct Sunday the 23rd in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is, again, our security, our safety. So this can cause things to be a little overwhelming. People can get a little overwhelmed when this happened with it. And I think it's a little bit of what everybody's feeling today. I don't know if you guys noticed and walked around, like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm feeling a little drained today. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by everything. This is the buildup of Cancer right now, the Mars moving into Cancer. So a lot of times too, this can make us really want to fight for everything we love, everything that we are passionate about can make us a little antsy over it. Like, oh, you don't like this? Well, let me tell you how I feel about it, like real quick to react. And sometimes we don't need to be so quick to react. So my words of caution with Mars moving into Cancer is that maybe we don't need to be quite so quick to react, okay? This does happen a lot too, every 2 years. And then when we go retrograde, we spend about 6 months doing this. Some people get kind of antsy about Mars going retrograde, but this does happen a lot, guys. You know, and Saturn retrograde, people get antsy about that too. These things happen all the time. Okay. All right. Let's get into talking a little bit about boundaries now. So how do we know when our boundaries are being crossed? One thing I want to talk about today is listening to your body. A lot of us, I think, are walking around all the time saying like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. I just need to calm down. And then we go talk to our friends, and what do they say? Oh, you just need to like take a chill pill. Like everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it anymore. And one thing I want to really touch on and speak about is honoring your feelings and listening to your bodies rather than trying to ignore the intuitive part and the energy that's coming through. So I put in here, I put so many lovely visuals today. I'm a sucker for a good visual, and I hope you guys appreciate it. It's going to get so much funner. So I put some things in here. If you're feeling guilty, if you notice that maybe I'm kind of sugarcoating things, I'm not really being honest about how I feel. Maybe what you're doing isn't aligning with your values. You're not really being respected by others when you're saying no. Or you're sharing too much information. You find that you're oversharing. Okay. Types of boundaries. I'm always shocked at how many people come into my office and I'm bringing up different types of boundaries, and they are deer in the headlights that they hadn't even realized that, oh, I can have a boundary in this area of my life. So taking a look at this, I think it's important for y'all to just take some mental notes here. It's okay to have a boundary with your time, with your mental health, with your emotional health, with your body, with your money, with your conversations, in all of these areas, in your sex life. It is okay to have boundaries with all of these things. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about identifying your boundary style. So there's 3 types of boundary styles. There's porous and rigid, and then in the middle you kind of have your healthy. I always say that what most of us do is we're going to yo-yo back and forth between that porous and rigid boundary, and it usually depends on who we're with. So the porous is where I have a lovely visual that I love this here. So the porous is where we're just letting everybody in our lives, right? There is no boundary here. The door is wide open. Everybody's coming in, right? And then a rigid boundary is like you're the angry old man. You're not letting anybody in your door. I don't care what kind of Girl Scout cookie they got. Screw you, you're not coming in, all right? And then we have this lovely in-between place. Look at how happy this girl is. She's got plants, she's got tea, coffee, I don't know, but she's got this lovely mesh, what do you call those things? Does anybody remember? I was so excited when I found this. The magic screen, yes. And she gets to control who comes in and out of it at her leisure. The other visual I gave one of my friends was on my front door, I have where you can pull the screen down, right? And then it's a window and then it's a screen. Yeah, anybody have this at home? I think this is a great visual for boundaries. Like, oh, if I want to have my boundary up, all I have to do is just whoop my window back up. And then if I decide, oh, maybe I need to loosen my boundary up, all I have to do is just whoop the screen down. I think it's a great, I'm a sucker for a good visual. I think that's a great way to think about it. Rather than I need to slam the door shut or it needs to be wide open. Because what our knee-jerk reaction will always be is, oh, these are my 2 options. All I can do is open my door or slam it shut. Does this concept make sense to y'all? All right, cool. Okay. Let's get into energetic boundaries a little bit. So, kind of like I talked about earlier, feelings are hard, especially in today's world. And I think in order to hold an energetic boundary, We need to be able to tolerate difficult emotions. They are not supposed to feel good. Not all things are supposed to feel good. And a lot of times our body is trying to tell us something, right? And maybe it's that we're not always listening to it, right? It's kind of like, hey, I'm back. Here I am again, banging on your door. Maybe you didn't listen to me last time, but here I am again as your reminder. So I want to go back to listening to the body. Also, don't assume that something is wrong or jump to that negative conclusion just because you feel cruddy. It might be a myriad of other things just because you have that cruddy feeling, rather than assuming, oh, that's automatically means something bad is going to happen. Something's wrong with where I'm at. Let's do the example of you're at a restaurant, meeting a group of friends, you walk in, you get this feeling. That doesn't necessarily mean the restaurant's going to burn down and you need to leave, right? Again, I'm going to go back to this guy. You don't need to do the rigid boundary. It might just be like, maybe I need to screen up right now. Maybe I need to pay a little bit more attention to my surroundings. Does this make sense? Maybe they're trying to tell me something that I need to pay a little bit more attention to. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. And if all you're doing is judging it and jumping to that negative conclusion, you're gonna miss those signs. You're gonna miss what your higher power or your spirit guides are trying to show you and trying to tell you because you're judging it. So I really want y'all to practice just noticing and staying present with it, and then being kind to yourself through it, rather than just that judgment and closing that door and having that rigid boundary, which is what a lot of us tend to do, okay? One of the rules that I use is the best friend rule. If your best friend called you and said, ooh, I just walked into this restaurant and I had this feeling, I'm worried the place is gonna burn down. Do you think I should run out? Are you gonna tell her, yes, bitch, run. What are you calling me for? No, you are not gonna tell her that. You're gonna say, okay, go to the bathroom, take 5. Do some deep breathing, and then go see how it feels, right? Treat yourself like you would your best friend. And then you're going to be able to center and feel a lot better. Give yourself permission to feel what you need to feel. And when you practice embodying the emotions and accepting and honoring how you feel, the boundary is going to come so easy. It's just going to flow because you're no longer denying that and pushing it away. It's not simple, but it certainly makes it a lot easier. Okay. Another tip that I have is kind of identifying things that are in your control and things that are not in your control. And this is more dealing with people in their meat suits that can be a little bit harder, right? When you're dealing with humans, I always like to remind people, use the let them theory. I love this. I have a group coming up where we're gonna kind of use Mel's book and break it down. Figure out what's in the realm of your control and what is not. And when you do that, then you can stop focusing on the things that are not in your control and start focusing on the things that are in your control. And once you start to refocus, that's going to help your life tremendously. Okay. Shielding. There's a lot of different ways to do shielding. And I always say, you do what works for you. But I want to give you guys a couple different things you can do. I loved this picture because, one, I love this movie, but two, the way he walks around in his little bubble, I think is a great visual for how your own auras work and how you can hone in your own aura, okay? So I just put some little tips on here, how to draw your awareness to your breathing, creating your own energy shield. And I always imagine whatever light works best for you is what I tell my clients, but cobalt blue or white typically, and imagining that around you. And some people I'll say, you know, use whatever visuals work for you, okay? How often do you want to do this is what I get asked a lot. I say all the time, every day. This is very much something you need to practice. And I heard that come up in another lecture today, like with meditation. It's like training a dog. Every time the dog sees a squirrel, he's going to frickin' run off, and you have to call him back every single time. Learning meditation and learning to have boundaries is very much like that. This is a lifelong practice. This is why you're here in your meat suit. It sucks. It's hard. But this is what we're here for. This is what you signed up for. This is your soul contract. It's hard work. Okay? So yes, all the time you need to practice shielding and pulling in your energy, and then also expanding it, like with the people you love when you're at home, when you want to do that. And then learning to pull it in when you want to pull it in. Okay? One exercise that I think is really great that you can practice with a friend when we talk about practicing with loved ones at home is going up to each other, putting your backs together, and then walking away from each other and towards each other, and then seeing when y'all can feel each other, and then pushing each other out and pulling each other in, and then just talking to each other about when you can feel it. That's a great exercise to do with someone you feel safe with. And then that's going to help you feel a lot more competent when you're in environments that you don't feel safe in. Like, okay, I know that my aura is going to stretch this far, and also that I can pull it in this much, which is going to help me feel that much more energetically safe when I'm in environments that I know are going to like suck me dry. Does that make sense? I love that as just a quick little exercise that you can do with people you feel safe with. Okay, more on shielding, using affirmations when you're in difficult environments. I put an app on there. There's an app called I Am that just is a daily affirmations app. I have some people that absolutely love that if you're an affirmations person. There's a paid and a free version. And I also put a couple affirmations on here that you can use to just strengthen yourself. Using crystals is a way of shielding. Some people are way more into this and can talk way more about this than I can, I am sure. I am not very much a crystal person. Crystals, stones, I may not even be saying it right, but I put some on there. Cleansing your aura. This I do think is very helpful. Water and just taking a shower is like the simplest way to cleanse your aura. This is something you can do at home. So tips while you're in the shower is just imagining that water being a white or golden light and kind of coming down and just washing all that negativity away. Imagine it going down the drain and then filling your body up with all that positive energy, right? That's so simple, and that is really something you should be doing every time you get in that shower. That's so easy to do. I love putting eucalyptus bundles in my shower too. Most of the grocery stores, I think, even have them now. And they're easy to get, they're cheap. That sucker can stay in there for a month, and it's great. I love it. So like adding some aromatherapy to your shower can be good. Shower steamers, even just throwing some essential oils in there are great. So I think that, what's that?
Baking soda.
Baking soda, yes. That can be great. You can make your own shower steamers with baking soda and essential oils. Yes. So that can be a great way to cleanse and recycle that energy back to the earth. Okay, releasing your energy. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this, and I didn't exactly finish this slide or put a pretty visual in, but recycling your energy back into the earth, I think there's so many ways to do this. And for me, I'm a nature person, so I'm the one that's gonna go out and literally hug it back into a tree. That works for me. But I think finding a way to do that is so important. I tell a lot of people in the car, in the bathroom is typically where people feel the safest, because nobody invades your privacy in those places, right? We also live in a very beautiful place, and there's so many places out here where you can go out in nature and be alone. And that's a great place to energy dump, right? So, and the other thing I want to talk about that is this should not feel good. I really want to hone in on that today. Is like a lot of this work should not feel good. And so many people come to these things and it's all about love and light and we're just going to lift each other up and it's going to feel great. But a lot of this work doesn't feel good. You feel like shit when you leave. You feel very drained. And that, my friends, is not a bad thing. I'm gonna go back to, that's like leveling up, right? You don't level up by, like, what happens when you play a video game? How many times are you gonna die before you get to the next level? You gotta go through all this hard stuff. It doesn't feel good. It sucks. So when it sucks, when it doesn't feel good, we have to find ways to dump, right? And doing that on a regular, consistent basis is part of what is going to help you have healthy, consistent boundaries, not only with other humans, but also with the spirit world and energetically. If you don't do that, you can't hold your boundaries. End of discussion. Okay? Lots of different ways of releasing. I could talk about this all day, but ultimately we have to figure out what works for you guys. Okay? Burn ceremonies are another great way of releasing that I do a lot. For me, I was raised doing a lot of Native American burn ceremonies, and that's typically what I go back to, but there's so many forms of doing that. You can do that very simply, you know, just by writing out your feelings in a journal form and then burning it when you're done. They've got even cool dissolvable paper you can buy on Amazon, and you can just throw it in the toilet and flush it. That's fun too. If you get mad at Jimmy, Jimmy's going down the toilet. We're done with him. So there's lots of fun things you can do with burn ceremonies nowadays. I love it. So there's physical release, like exercise, going and hugging the tree. I'm a big fan of that too. Meditation, spiritual release, all kinds of things. But the important thing I want to stress to you guys is just finding that type of release. Smudging. Smudging is another way, a great way to cleanse. That attracts positive spirits, bans away all the negative ones. You know, I've heard more newer things on smudging and if it's ethical and ethically sourced. I've smudged my entire life. I've grown up around it. I also make my own smudge bundles with everything I grow in my backyard. So to me, that's ethically sourced. But I do think that's an important point. Figure out where you're getting your stuff from. We also do making your own smudge bundle classes at Empowering Minds twice a year, and that's with everything I get out of my backyard. So that's fun. We have a good time. But smudging is super important. I do that all the time. Doing that on the full moons, which is a good time to let things go. Full moons are all about releasing. When we talk about releasing, that's a great time to let go of things that are no longer serving you. And new moons are times where we want to start new habits, bring new things in, okay? Smudging also gets rid of a lot of bacteria, kills a lot of bacteria. That's scientifically backed. All kinds of good things, and it smells great. Quick little grounding tip that I teach all the time is using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay? I also tell people if you're ever having a panic attack or having a lot of anxiety, this works great. Okay, list off 5 things you can see in the room, 4 things you can feel or touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This is so simple. You can do this no matter where you are, and it can be so beneficial. A little bit on what to not do. Do not seek validation from the wrong people. This is very easy to do. Maybe the wrong friends. Maybe sometimes we don't need to seek validation at all. And a lot of times I talk about this, like, why are you asking people? Why are you asking me? Should you be asking anyone? Because a lot of times you know the answer. You're just not wanting to hear it, or maybe you don't like it, which is totally fair. I understand that. Okay. Or you're asking others like, oh, if I do this, are we still going to be friends? Are we still going to be friends if I make this decision? Or do you think I'm being mean if I put up this boundary? That does not matter. You know the answers. Okay. Another thing to not do is should on yourself. Adler, who is a really good psychologist, always said, don't should on yourself. And I tell that to people all the time. Don't should on yourself. If you're doing that, that is your red flag. Don't do that. The other thing, it is normal to be wrong, and that is part of being human and part of why we're here and part of learning and being a fallible human. So being wrong is okay. So part of when we are learning to put up boundaries with other people, if maybe you made a mistake in doing that, it's okay to say, you know what, I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. And then to go back and have that conversation. And how beautiful is it also to teach that to this other person and to everyone else in the world. I think that's a great thing, and that can be very powerful. The other thing that I teach in my women's group a lot is the quote, it's not your job. It is not your job to do so many things in this world that we are walking around doing all the time. And if there was one thing I think I could tattoo on a lot of people, it would be let them. I love that. And it would also be it's not your job. It is not your job, which goes with the let them theory, right? Yeah. It's not your job. It's not your job also to punish yourself when you don't need to, or other people for that matter. Okay? And then don't ruminate or at least try to catch yourself when you're doing that. When you have jumped on the hamster wheel and it is no longer serving you, sometimes you may need a distraction to get off the hamster wheel. What to do? Realize it's okay to not like someone in the moment. That probably is not going to last forever. They may not be in your life forever, but the people that you love and are close with you, you are not going to like all the time. That's part of being human. Also know it's okay to be someone's bad guy. You cannot change their narrative or their story. If you're going to be the bad guy, you're going to be the bad guy. Physically move the energy. That is probably one of my biggest tips for a lot of people with a myriad of mental health issues, is move the energy. You cannot sit in the feeling, in the depression, in the anxiety. You have to move the energy. Emotionally unplug from the situation. Put the phone down, especially right now. All you have to do is pick up your phone, and instant depression. It's great, right? Put it down. Practice self-care. Remember why you have boundaries. You put them in place for a reason. And a lot of times I'll tell people, when you initiate a boundary the first time, write yourself a little note so you remember why you did that. Because in 3 months from now, or in 6 months from now, or a year from now, you might forget. So go back and read that. Hey self, here's why we're doing this, in case you forget. And then listen to your body. Right? We talked about that. Listening to the body. And just in case you didn't know, I put that lovely little picture there because sometimes we just can't let things go. Right? And that guy is so upset because the dog just won't let it go. He just won't let it go. Stop ruminating. Let it go. It's so cute, right? But you just can't let it go, can you? You just can't. In terms of energy work, I think another good tip when you are walking into a place and the energy is not good, right? Or we have that icky vibe. I always say, and this does pull into a little bit of astrology too, is anchoring in the sun. The sun is always bright. The sun is always brighter than any kind of negative energy we're feeling or we're experiencing, whether it's in the body or it's something external. So using the sun and tapping into that light source as an anchor can really be helpful, right? Use that energy, proxy that energy. It is brighter than whatever you are dealing with, okay? If you can imagine that sun going into whatever that is, into your body, into the place, into that other person, and that light shining through and healing whatever needs to be healed, that's a really powerful thing. The sun is what has given us life on earth. Nothing is more powerful than that, right? One of the last tips I'm going to give you guys is cord cutting. I love cord cutting. It is so good. It is so powerful in so many ways. I think the way we do cord cutting now is not the way it was originally introduced to me in the Native American world, but I think no matter what way you use it, it is powerful. So cord cutting, for those of you, is anybody not familiar with cord cutting here? Everybody knows. You're not. You're not. Okay, that's great. That's fine. We're going to talk about it. So I don't know that any of us could deny when we have a relationship that develops with someone, there is like an energetic cord. And this is what I learned from my Native American teachings. There's an energetic cord that ties you to this other person, your mother, so to speak. When you're born, you have this energetic cord that ties you to your parents, right? We'll start with that. Then as you get older and you have other people in your life, lovers, whatever, friends, you have other energetic cords that tie to them, that tether you to them. And this cord of energy flows back and forth between the two of you until you choose to cut the cord, okay? You can also choose at any time to reopen that cord, by the way. So when you do this and maybe you're deciding you're done with this person, even this place, okay? And you want to end that energetic tie, that relationship, at least in an energetic way, there's multiple ways you can do this. And cord cutting is the way to do it. Now, what form of cord cutting you want to do, there's a lot over different ways to do it, whether you want to do it in a witchy way, a woo way, or more of a spiritual way, you can. So I can certainly talk to you guys. I could do a whole talk on cord cutting, but if you want to know more, please let me know. It can be very powerful, and I think when you're choosing to end a relationship, a significant relationship in your life, you need to do it. You need to cut that energetic cord. It's super important. Okay? Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is just having a little bit of hope for the future with everything that's going on in our world right now. And really like surfing the waves of change. I think we've gone through these waves of change lots of times on this planet, and it's gonna just keep happening. This is part of what the planet goes through. And it's not a bad thing. Beautiful things have come out of this. Our Earth is like 4.68 billion years old, I think, right? And it's gone through lots of changes. And I want y'all to use this really Pluto moving into Aquarius as a motivator to let go of the things that are no longer serving you. That is really what this is about, is, hey, here's your chance, it's time, you need to let it go, right? Especially now that we've stationed direct, it's time. And if you haven't yet, it's gonna hit you in the face. It's a little bit, it's gonna get a little feisty with you at this point, right? So I want you to think about, how are you willing to grow? How are you willing to change? And then where and how you can direct that energy in a positive way. Y'all are here, so I know you're gonna do that. All right, I have a little bit of time left for questions.
What was the name of your
It's okay.
therapy or counseling?
Empowering Minds in Ottawa.
It screened before this. The last
Yes.
line. An uneven exchange in effort and energy. So I'm thinking of a friend that I had let go a couple years ago, and it was like she was, we're best friends, aren't we? And I'm like, it was just this weird, like I felt like, I don't think she was controlling me. It was like, I didn't feel the same way about her as far as our friendship. And I'm like, what? You know, it got really annoying, and my life is just so much better than just ghosted her and like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and I do say I recommend cord cutting a lot for that when there's someone in your life you're not on an even plane with,
Yeah, it's just
right?
a lot.
Yeah, and maybe you want them to just move on. Cord cutting is great for that, yes. I do know Rock Soul Love that's here. Is that what they're called? Rock Soul? Thank you. She has stuff for cord cuttings here. But yeah, that is a great example of a time to do cord cutting.
Oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the times I do a lot of cord cutting in my life is when like somebody's fucking with me and I don't want them to anymore. Like, I don't want to play this game, but you keep playing.
I'm not on that level with you. I'm just, it doesn't feel right. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong with it. It's like you don't have to please everybody. You don't have to make everybody happy. You do what's right for you.
We only have control over ourselves and our feelings and our emotions and our actions.
Another thing I learned about that is like you don't have to justify it either. Like if you feel off, you feel off, and you don't need to validate it or find reasons. You just feel off, and that's okay.
Or explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just goes against how it was raised. And it's hard to do, but you can do it. And it feels real good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that's an interesting point because so many people were raised with that, again, that spectrum. Like, they were either raised in a porous, like, you let everybody in, and yes, you want to be very loving and kind to everyone and, you know, have that door open. Or they're raised in an environment where it's just like, nope, you're only responsible for you. We only take care of ourselves.
You see, it's hard to say no to someone who's being too kind.
Right.
It's like,
Gotta be careful of someone who wants to be your friend too quick.
oh no, she was for a long time. Just it's just too much. Overdone. I think my daughter over there knows who I'm talking about. Don't say the name out loud. It's just,
But you did it.
I did
You
it.
put the boundary up.
Not any of this. This would have helped, but yeah, okay.
Okay, but like, like someone like a few days ago, like, not a few days ago, a few years ago, cut me off, like started ghosting me, and it was like really hurtful and it was really painful for me, but like, I was a really good friend, they were a really good friend of mine, but I think like, I triggered their insecurities, and like, the more I analyzed it, like the more it was just like, oh, like, this person was extremely insecure about this aspect of their life, and they noticed that I wasn't, and that like, triggered something in them that they wanted to cut me out, and I was like, I don't know, like that was so hurtful to me because I was just like, let me love you, like let's heal together through this, and it's just
Remember,
like,
you can only control yourself.
I know, but yeah, so it's just like, oh, like I'm sure like she felt better after cutting me out, like because she just has to be reminded of like how it's possible to not be insecure in the way that she is. But like it was just so painful because I just really love this person, like and like I really genuinely was a really good friend to her, and like she really genuinely was like a really good friend to me until then.
Did you a favor? Because it probably would have turned sour more in the end.
That's what I was thinking, is maybe she knew it before you knew it.
If you let somebody go that you care about, it's still painful. It's just maybe the right thing to do.
Yeah, and then I go back
I
to,
wasn't just believing. I was like, let me help you work through this insecurity. Like, because I've helped her like with like other things, and she's helped me with other things, you know. So it's like I thought we could get through this, but apparently
I
not.
can't decide that for her, so.
Yeah.
being on the other side of that is hard. And I think it's really important to go back to acknowledging you and feeling those icky feelings that you need to feel, right? Because I heard you say, I just wanted to heal her and heal with her.
Not your job.
Like I almost like feel guilty for like not having the same insecurity as her. Like I don't like it's just like, oh, like it's uneven, but like the more confident one is me, and like I want to uplift people, and it's weird, like.
You weren't fulfilling what she needed in a friend, even though you were trying. That wasn't what she wanted.
Yep.
And it's her shot. It's her life. You know.
Sometimes you gotta do stuff on your own.
All right, guys, we're out of time. I'm sorry I didn't have more time for questions. Thanks.